that a comprehensive approach through investing in the people, good governance, and de-radicalization are keys to a win-win battle against terrorism. Now, what more lessons are there from the summit? What's in place for the actualization of recommendations to go beyond the usual talk? Now, these are some of the issues we'll be raising tonight on Tuesday Live. But first, let's get to see this report by Edino Justice.
With the military degrading Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast and containment of militancy in the Niger Delta, security concerns nowadays have been extended beyond armed robbery, theft, and occasional homicides to more complex organized kidnapping, banditry, rustling, and the farmers' herders clashes, which have claimed thousands of lives and loss of properties across the country. Curtailing these complex violent crimes, security experts believe, requires combination of sticks and carrot approach. With this understanding, the police organized a National Security Summit, the second in the series, to enable stakeholders brainstorm on seeking scientific and practical solutions.
That security is everybody's business, and we should all join hands to address the security challenges together. That within the available resources of the force, in collaboration and synergy with other security agencies, the police have been able to stabilize the polity. Each successes were recorded in the fight against kidnapping and other violent crimes nationwide. Over the years, the Nigerian police force, saddled with the responsibility of policing the country, has been grappling with fundamental challenges which tends to impede its optimal performance. Among these challenges are funding, shortfall in manpower, and training and in-training of its personnel.
Intolerance of political leaders across the country as also a security threat you as security agencies must contend with. We have political corruption, we have hunger, we have unemployment, which are also brought about by bad governance. These issues are also security threats.
We should invest in equity. We should invest more in the strength of our diversity.
Other issues that cropped up were control of firearms, explosive ordnance, regulation of trade animals, forestry guards. They argued extensively on the need for cattle breeders to embrace ranching and for farmers to tolerate each other's.
While Nigeria is also growing and trying to rank with other countries of the world, we've also practiced what is done to bring peace in other countries. Today, in Europe, in America, in Asia, and all developing countries, what you see for breeding of cattle is ranching.
You see, a ranch is a large expanse of land that allows movement of animals within that corridor. What we should talk about is people should be encouraged to establish livestock farms. For now, we must regulate the activities of herdsmen. Control their children from grazing just anytime, control them from grazing in the night, and make sure that we register all of them and monitor their activities from one point to the other.
The police even demonstrated readiness to combat organized crimes through the display of use of air power and snipers to rescue kidnapped victims. These were applauded, but beyond that, many questions are still waiting for answers. How well are security personnel taken care of compared to their counterparts elsewhere? How is security and peace-building mechanism treated? How to handle religious and ethnic manipulations? People are still wondering how effective are regulatory policies and application of firearms controls. Where is the place of the teachings of history and morals? Finally, how patriotic is the citizenry? Edino Justice, NTA News.
That report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guests. I would like to welcome to this program Deputy Inspector General of Police Operations, Habila Joshak. Thanks for being here with us.
Good evening, viewers.
All right. We're also joined tonight by Professor Istefanos Zabadi, who is the head of Department of Political Science, Bingham University in Cairo. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, viewers.
Let me also welcome General Muyiwa Okunowo, former commander, Multinational Joint Task Force. Thanks for being here.
Good evening. Good evening, viewers.
Right, and also joining us from our Lagos Network Center is Vince Onyekwelu, who is a security expert. Hello, Vince. Good to see you.
So much. Good evening, Nigerians.
Right. As usual, we acquaint you with the procedure on this program. At the appropriate time, you can get to join in the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on screen. We advise you to take advantage of them. However, for those who will be calling in, we say this every Tuesday. When your call gets through, do us a favor, reduce the volume of your TV set. Just turn down the volume. That's the way to avoid the hurlback. And the best way to know your call has been passed through is you'll see your name appear on screen. Once your name is on screen, it means your call is through. So just go right ahead, ask a question or make a comment. Don't bother too much about greetings. Just go ahead. And I guess we'll respond to such issues as you might raise. So once again, welcome to Tuesday Live. Let's begin the fallout of that security summit. Okay, and we see easily that in 2015, the police held a national security summit. That was then under the then Inspector General, Solomon Arase. And shortly after that, the police held another summit, this time under the current Inspector General. Now, what's the import of these summits and what comes out of them?
Thank you, viewers. Holding a summit in a year would not prevent or be enough that will create a situation where we don't hold one, because crime is dynamic and their approaches are also dynamic. Some of the things that constitute security risk and security challenges some years back, today they are not. Approach to tackling crime and criminality also are dynamic and they change. And that's why some of the new crime that have been introduced into this system that has also been responsible for creating situation apprehensive, that people also feel that their lives and properties are not safe and cannot conduct their businesses under an atmosphere that is devoid of fear. And that is why we had to stage another summit for us to be able to galvanize and test and also measure the pulse of members of the public and the citizenry.
Now, the 2017 summit, what was the main plank of that?
The 2017 summit that we've just held was a platform created to allow the citizen to speak for themselves, to also look at what has been the problems and what are the situation, and also to look at how far have the security agencies, including the police and the military, have responded, and are there some issues that have not been discussed in public, or are there things that are supposed to be suggested and put forward to the security agencies for them to be able to be on track? So one of it is to be able to create an avenue for interaction between all stakeholders and security experts and the police and other security agencies to get to where there could be some peace in this country.
All right, we'll return to you in a short while, but let's go on to Professor Zabadi. There are so many challenges today in terms of security issues, kidnapping, armed robbery, insurgency, and so many. Yes, and of course, we've seen the frequent clashes between herdsmen and farmers, leading to massive loss of lives and property. And all these are, they take a toll on the security architecture of the country.
They do. And I think that we need to try to understand why these things persist. Let me quickly say that as a country we have suffered from lack of good governance. And some of the signs of that, or the consequences of that, would include lack of equity, impunity. People commit crimes, heinous crimes, they walk away free. And we've got to a stage where it seems as if the only way you can be listened to is to cause trouble. That seems to be a recurrent decimal in all these problems that we're seeing. The herdsmen are rampaging the place. It seems nothing happens to them. Nobody seems to be able to get hold of that. The same thing with the kidnapping and so on. That is not to say that successes are not recorded here and there, but I think the citizens want to see a situation where this thing has been properly arrested and the process is being de-escalated such that you can at least say that if somebody commits a crime, they're most likely to be apprehended and to be punished. Now, I've talked about lack of good governance. Government is far away from the people. Good governance includes things like accountability, transparency, participation by the people in managing their own affairs. And you heard from the clip what the Inspector General said, and which is true. Security is everybody's business. We are all stakeholders. The security architecture of Nigeria must also include the ordinary Nigerian who is in the village, in the remote areas. He or she is also part of the security arrangement. Communities, districts, and so on. All the leaders at those levels need to be integrated into the security architecture such that preventive measures will work faster and help us in also managing things before they get out of control. So for me, these are some of the factors at play. And when they break out, it's another thing whether we have even equipped our own agencies, security agencies, and what have you, to be able to move quickly and deal with it. That remains a major issue, and you hear that being repeatedly said in form of funding gap and what have you. And so if you don't have funds, you can't train, you can't equip, and so on. And then we're running in circles, not being able to solve these problems, even though I guess we know the answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's come to General Kuno, and you commanded the multinational joint task force. Now let's bring in the dimension of the insurgency in the northeast of Nigeria, spilling over borders to neighboring countries, and how that has, impacted on the security situation in the country.
Thank you very much. The truth is that our borders are porous, and we've not been able, actually, in this country, to separate religion from governance. Mohammed of Chad is quite different from Mohammed of Nigeria. And our immigration policy also. So when people come into this country, take for example this herdsmen issue, or even this Boko Haram issue, most of these people initially are not Nigerians. Going by our own values, some of them are from neighboring countries. And the herdsmen problem, they move from all these countries, from Niger, Chad, down to the southern part of the country. Because I could remember in 2010, there was some kind of blockage of them coming into Nigeria, which they are searched before they are allowed to come in. And in that year, 2010 and 2011-12, there was serious reduction in this herdsmen problem in this country, because over there, they went through serious searching. We collected some AK-47 from some of them that are coming into the country. So we really have to, I've been hearing for years, porous borders, porous borders. What have we done about it? I remember in countries like India, Bangladesh, you dare not try walking into the country through any porous means. The auxiliaries are there to make sure you don't just come into their country. But do we have such things? So we really need to kind of synergize and have a proper, holistic internal security profile or machinery that should be able to cater for some of these things, rather than saddling them with, okay, the armed forces.
Okay, well, let's go over to our Lagos Center now, where Vince Anyekwelu is. And Vince, you have listened to guests here, and give us your perspective on what all these challenges are doing to this country. And I say this because let's draw on your experience. You were with the Met Police in the past, and so let's get your perspective on this.
Thank you so much, Cyril. Obviously, this issue of national security summit is very key. It's very pivotal to lives and to the peace of Nigeria. Obviously, when you look at the current situation in Nigeria, it's very demeaning. It's very painful to see in such a fantastic and highly blessed society, we are still doing loads of cosmetic security, cosmetic national security. How can we be spending so much huge sums of money to run such national security summit when the basic things are not there in place? The good general just pinpointed the issues of porous borders. But let me even take you further. We lack a simple national identity system that is working. Right now in Nigeria, there's been so much promises about national ID card. That is why the Muhammad of Chad or the Muhammad of Niger is almost the same thing with the Muhammad of Nigeria. They are not the same people. What does it take us to have a national ID system that is practical, that is working? Remember, we've got our Nigerian passport. It could be used. The details there can be used. We have our national driver's license details. It can be used. We have the temporary voters card. It can be used. We have the permanent voters card. It can be used. None of them are being used. And look at the issue of the BVN. It's been very effective in the banking sector. I know not everybody is banked. There are so many people that are unbanked. But we have so much data that we can use to compile, to have an ID system in Nigeria. So when somebody commits a crime, we can develop a crime database for the person. Right now in Nigeria, somebody who committed a crime in Kano State can simply move away from Kano State to another state, and before you know it, the system have lost contact with the person. We need to work on this. But let's even look deeper. We've been talking about the issue of the herdsmen in Nigeria. Currently, how many herdsmen has been arrested? How many herdsmen has been successfully prosecuted? I'm not saying that all of them are guilty, but the ones, how many have been arrested? So I think there's a lot of lip service. There's a lot of cosmetics in the National Security Summit. If you look at the one that was organized in 2015, how many of the policies has been implemented? How many of the policies is implementation today? How many has been executed today? And before I stop here, now look at the issue of recruitment into our national security agencies. We all heard about what happened with the SSS, how they were able to recruit 51 people from just Katsina State, and the whole of South got about 44. The whole of Southeast got about 50. But when it comes to academic index in Nigeria, we have it on good record that the kids from the Southeast and the Southwest do a lot better in education in Nigeria. But when it comes to recruitment to the big positions in Nigeria, we get the kids from the regions of Nigeria that have been perpetually poor in academic performances to lead. So in policing, we talk about leadership. When we choose leaders that are not capable, that are not competent, that are not experienced, when we choose leaders that don't like policing, but because they got into policing because of some kind of quota system, then what do you expect? You're going to expect the same kind of debacle we are going to. All good respect to Nigerian police, fantastic people, they work very hard. Honestly, I cannot work in the Nigerian police because they work almost with their bare hands. I came from a police service that have respect in training and in tools and infrastructure. I give all respect to Nigerian police still. Thank you.
We look at other aspects of this, and one of the key issues here, especially in the 2017 summit, was to involve all segments, virtually all segments of society. Among them, the traditional rulers, in terms of national security. Now, how do we go about achieving this? The role of the traditional rulers and national security.
Okay, in treating insecurity and finding solution to solving them, it will be a lot better if you capture the mood and the input of traditional rulers. Traditional rulers domicile with their subject, and they are found in the rural areas, and they have the ability to represent their people, and they have information, ideas, intelligence about what is happening within their vicinity. And therefore, this group of individuals are very, very important when you bring them together, particularly when you also domicile them under what we call the Eminent Persons Forum. That also includes top government officials that have retired, and some are still serving. We also have a lot of them that have also ventured into businesses and business technocrats, and people also that have been exposed internationally and have had opportunity to participate in one security discourse or arrangement or the other. When you have this kind of groups in all the rural areas, in all the villages, coming together to assess and provide solution as to what exactly the public expect from the security agencies, and what has not been done that should have been done, and what exactly it is and the situation is, rather than the police deciding for them what exactly or how they could be policed. And that is bringing security to the grassroots, known as community policing. Community policing is allowing members of the public to make input, not just to make input, but to participate and tell the police what exactly they want the police to do to them.
All right. Now on the question of the traditional rulers, yes, as the DIG said, they are with the people, they're respected by the people. But again, it's pointed out that there is no specific rule for them in the Constitution. Now, Prof, is that a drawback?
No, I don't necessarily think so. I don't think it's a drawback. You see, there is also this side of things that I think we keep ignoring. If you have made the position of traditional rulers that of bureaucrats, it means the traditional rulers are sometimes at the beck and call of governors, those who are there, or governments that are their employers, and the tendency therefore is for them to dance to the tune of the government of the day. So for me, there's a problem there.
All right.
So if we are talking about traditional rulers, the way things used to be, where they enjoyed a lot of legitimacy among their people, and they were able to get to the remotest parts of their domains and get information flow to them. We have moved away from that.
Okay, that may well be so, but again, it's pointed out that these days you're beginning to see a different kind of traditional ruler. You're seeing people from the police, the military, top technocrats and all that, who have become traditional rulers. And people are wondering, when you have this crop of people there, how can we not take an advantage of that?
You don't need to have provisions in the Constitution before they can play a role. That's my own position, that they can still do much more without specifying some rules in the Constitution. I'm trying to avoid this politics of everybody wanting a piece of a role.
Okay.
But they're still there with the people. There are a lot of things that they're able to do which are perhaps not in the area of security without necessarily having those roles specified in the Constitution.
All right.
So I think we need to look at how they even come about. See, we are suffering crisis of legitimacy at all levels, with traditional rulers, with elected governments, and so on. Unless we tackle this so that the people who occupy these positions enjoy legitimacy, then we're going to keep running into problems.
Right.
I think I would say that it's the man that is so appointed as a traditional ruler by his people. Is it there for the actual purposes of serving the people, or just to become part of the elites? When you see reasons why people get into office in this country, it's just to have to defend us. I'm this, I'm that. If people are convinced about the sustainability of this country called Nigeria, you realize that we all have stake in this Nigerian project. Regardless of the position which you are holding, you must be able, as a traditional ruler, even if you don't want to be at loggerhead with your principal, I mean a governor, their SSS are there within the state, local government. You get your information, you give them. But you see, the level, when you are talking about governance, just put corruption. Because the level at which we are in this country, you should be afraid of your next door neighbor. Nigerians are becoming, we don't even trust ourselves.
All right.
Because if I give you an information, you may end up becoming a whistleblower to that particular security information. And the man that is giving you the information, his life may be at risk. So every one of us must realize that, like they've been saying, we don't have any other country. The best we can give at any point in time is for us to get committed to everything that has to do, honestly, to the survival of this nation. Because if we don't do that, we are leaving the next generation with the problems. And they will be more advanced technologically to handle it in a very way.
Okay, well, let's take our cameras to the People's Court, the proverbial People's Court, now and see what Nigerians are saying about traditional rulers, their role, especially when we talk about national security. Take a look.
Kudos to the military and then the present administration for what they are doing in order to be able to arrest the situation. It is not possible for them to know everything. We also have the responsibility by informing them, giving them useful information that will lead for them to discharge their responsibility as at when due. Initially, the traditional rulers were the custodian of the security aspect of this country. That is to say that most of the areas they are covering, normally there are anybody that visits that area, the traditional ruler is supposed to know who and where is he from and who is he. From there you will get information
and then to give it to the conventional security men in order to be alert of the situation.
Traditional rulers are the custodian of the culture of their people. They hold the culture, the tradition, the custom, the values, and the norms. Before the coming of the Europeans, the white people, each community has a way of guiding themselves, or the way they do their own things. Even communal policing and what have you has been there from time immemorial. And since the traditional rulers, they have the full grasp of how they were doing it in the past. So government just have to listen to them and let them come with the modalities, which when they say to the government can look into it and see if they can take them who like a sinker, or if there's any need for government to make little adjustments.
People emanate from families, and families are embodiments of all these, you see clans, you see communities coming together. Then all these crimes and criminalities emanate from societies. And if actually crime can be curbed from the society, from the family, you see definitely when it comes to the state, it becomes a settled issue. You and I, every Nigerian, every person has a role to play. At least when it comes to job, that's what's called division of labor. If you can profile information to a security agent, you have done your own role. If you can disease from indulging in crime, you have done your own role as a good citizen. If a traditional ruler can equally, bring people together, incite peace within them, tell them what to do, even try to achieve one way or the other, whereby people can engage in one thing or the other, have that value in the society, that moral value. Even in churches, even our pastors, imams, they play a very good role by inciting some religious words into them, making them to know that crime, you cannot succeed in crime. Morality pays. Working hard pays. You see, that alone, from the cradle to adulthood, it goes a long way.
All right, the opinion of Nigerians on what role the traditional rulers perform and how they can help in improving national security. Now let's go to Vince in Lagos studio, and I'll tie that up with the concept of community policing. First, let's look at it from this angle. Do you think that confidence has been built among communities as to actively take part in community policing?
I believe the idea of community policing is going to be a very welcome strategy of policing in Nigeria. I say this because of my first-hand experience. My first operations were as a community police officer all over the South London and Southeast of London, and even in Kent. Obviously, I've got years of experience in community policing. As a community police officer, we also saw through during the biggest London riot of 2011, we have to be there in the field, working with members of the public, trying to assure them, trying to build a synergy between the police and the people and peace. I think many communities in Nigeria will be very, very happy with the idea of community policing. Why? Because number one, it gives them the sense of responsibility to secure their own community. Number two, it gives them a say into what happens, who comes into their community and who lives in their community. Number three, they know all the nooks and crannies of their boundaries in their community. They know who is a stranger, they know who is a troublemaker, they know who is a peace lover. They understand their communities very well. However, we need to look for people that understand community policing, both theoretically and practically. Because if you bring people that understand it from a theoretical point of view, when it comes to implementation, remember, every criminal lives in a neighborhood. every crime starts from a neighborhood. So if the neighbor, if the community are well educated, well informed, well carried along, that could survive. However, we need to understand the importance of what we call victim care management. When somebody in the community suffers a crime, be it burglary, be it kidnapping, we need to have a strategy and system to give them that support as a victim of a crime. Unlike what we have now, they say, go back home, thank God that you are alive, go and sort yourself out. These are the ingredients that community policing can bring. I support the idea of the community leaders playing a role because obviously they are supposed to be the chief security officers of their community. They can play a role. However, we need to set up a security system that has no respect for any citizen of Nigeria that breaks the law. Be you a community leader, be you a man of God, be you a governor, be you a minister, be you anybody. If you commit a crime, you should have the kind of police system that can say you are under arrest and you have a right to keep silent and put your hands behind you and put handcuffs in your hand. But in Nigeria today, too much respect for everybody that people commit crimes, you are scared. You can't even stop a minister or a commissioner or even a ward councillor because the police officers or the army men that follow them will probably beat up their own fellow police officer or army man for trying to stop a councillor or a ward officer. Talk alone about a governor or a minister. We need to bring security back, that people should respect the security, and if you don't respect it, you should be arrested and prosecuted. That is the idea of community policing working in Nigeria.
Fine, Vince, let's come to DIG Habila Joshua here. How well is the concept working in Nigeria?
Well, community policing is not an imported ideas and an ideology brought in and wholly implemented. It is, a concept that you have to domesticate. And Vincent have said it all. It is an attempt to collaborate fully with members of the communities and the members of the society by the police, becoming open and share what exactly the responsibility of a police officer is in terms of trying to contain crime, educating them on their role. In fact, there isn't any situation where you will have the police and the police alone that will be able to do it, because information that filter to the police from members of the public who live within the community and who also live among the criminals will be most reliable and most important. And trying to process this information into an intelligence, even in an attempt to identify and zero on these people, there is the contribution of these members of the community. And in places where we have applied them and do them well, it has worked and it's working.
All right, our first caller is on the line. This call is coming in from Kaduna. Sule is on the line from Kaduna. Hello, Sule.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Sule, go right ahead. Well, I think that call is gone. Just encourage you to try to call back and keep the calls coming through. Yes, Prof.
Yeah, this issue of community policing. Again, in our own context, listening to Vincent over there, even where he has worked among his own community, in London to Kent. And in those countries, they recruit what they call ethnic minorities and have them serve among their people because they have knowledge, intimate knowledge of their communities. Here we are in Nigeria with an experience that has taken us largely because of military rule, and you have the police has also taken on characteristics where you see that a majority of those serving in a particular state may not necessarily come from there, because it is important that the people who are involved as police officers in community policing come from those communities that they know. Now, we don't have that. Two, the issue of training also comes in because they have to be trained to work with the people. At the moment, people either are too scared of the police because they have to win confidence. That's why they have to be part of the people themselves. So we have a long way, in my view, to go in this issue. And as Vincent said earlier, you have to start all the way from recruitment to training. You also have to sensitize communities. You must make them believe that the police are part and parcel of the good life that they ought to live. And therefore they should be able to partner. As we are now, it's very difficult to see that.
Right, let's try the calls again, and we have Favor on the line from Delta. Hello, Favor.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
Hello?
Go right ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead. Turn down the volume of your TV and go on. We said this at the start of the program. Reduce the volume of your TV. Well, that call is lost too. Again, let's say this. Once your name appears on screen, it means your call has been passed through. Turn down the volume of your TV to avoid the hurlback and go right ahead. Okay, so just keep the calls coming. Right, General. Still talking about community policing and how it can be made more effective.
So far, we realize that we are at a particular point now that we really need community policing, because people within the community, we know ourselves, and we can know, with the assistance of the traditional rulers, we know who is who within the community. So we can have a link of reporting back to the police. If within a community, everybody is conscious and there's proper orientation, like Dr. Zabadin said, that you are working for the good of the people, you will see that within a period of short time, we will be able to kind of reduce the security problems we are having. But because if you don't have somebody who can give you first-hand information, taking for example, you go to a police station, you report, somebody comes into an area, they are still looking who is living in this house, all this kind of thing. But since you have somebody there who can give you information that, look, this guy has just gone out. This guy is coming in by this time. Somebody is there, which he might not even know. Some of these old women, retired people that are sitting down around, they use them abroad. They give you information.
Okay, back to the phones. Let's hope this time we can get the call through. From Abuja, Elijah calling in. Hello, Elijah. You're on.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
This is Elijah Kofa. I'm calling from Airport Village.
Good. Go ahead.
Please, I am asking on this police security. If APC or if PDP already, they have their own village security. And actually, APC, they can't take over the government by themselves. And they have their own village security. Do you think that both of them will be having problems in the village in order to support the particular party that is existing?
Well, I'm not too clear about that because I mean the APC or the PDP parties don't have a police force, so I'm not too clear about the question. But perhaps what I think you probably are referring to is those who have advocated the state police, and you're wondering if you have that, there won't be, people won't take sides. But again, if you're talking about having community policing and having people in the community taking sides with the criminals. I hope he's not suggesting by any chance that the community would prefer to have criminals live within them and protect them. What's the experience like, DIG?
Well, we don't understand that question very well, but I can say that it is true that the police could be influenced. And that's why we're very, very careful in trying to get people to walk where they come from. And to some extent, there are a lot of counter allegations. Even when they don't exist, there is this belief that when you walk in your locality, there's a tendency for you to segregate. There's a tendency for you to also not flow well. And like I said, success in crime control, crime combat, and getting good information that are converted into intelligence require that you must create a very good conducive atmosphere and relationship with the community you are policing, for them to be able to build trust in you, for them to be able to believe in you, and for them to be able to give you information and walk along with you. Yes.
But let's tie this up with our sense of values. Yes, Prof.
Sorry, I think what he was referring to is the issue of professionalism. Is the police professional enough to be able to just do its job? Doesn't matter which party comes to power. I think that's the way I understood that question. Now, professionalism is not only required from the police, it's so required even from the politicians. They're supposed to be professional. And what that means is that you're guided by the principles of your trade, and respect for for those who have elected you, or for those who are serving, is key. And so that enables you not to discriminate openly, as the DIG was just saying, and so on. If we see that a lot in the police, community policing will advance.
All right.
Yeah.
We have Ignatius calling in from Jos. Hello, Ignatius. Go right ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I want to refer you people back to what Vince said from Lagos. Yes, good evening, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to refer you back to what Vince said from Lagos. The issue he raised here, I realized that you could not iron those issues. You just went ahead and delved into other issues again. I don't understand what is really going on. I think these are some of the problems we Nigerians are facing. When we raise an issue, we change topics again and go into another issue again. Please, could you please address?
Well, Ignatius, if you can hear me, what exactly is it you think is not being addressed? What's the particular thing you think is not being addressed really?
You know what Vince said the first time he was introduced.
Right. Well, unfortunately, we'll never know, except, of course, Ignatius calls back, and we'll try and get what exactly he's alluding to there. But okay, let's even go to Lagos, where Vince is, and the question of whether the policeman will be professional enough as to not take sides and to do his job according to his training. Is there a problem here?
Yes, there is a big problem here, Cyril. When it comes to the issue of professionalism in line with community policing, a lot of people will hear the word community policing and it sounds so simplistic. Community policing is a very dangerous level of policing because that is the closest level of policing that brings you close to the people that brings you close to the citizens, that brings you close to the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you get it right, the people will take you a big good. If you get it wrong, the whole people, the gossip. Don't forget, in business, bad news travels further away. But when you go to professional special operations in policing, it could be only 10 people or 20 could be aware of what gone wrong there. But when it comes to community policing, if you get it right, it's a big plus to the commissioner, to the IG. If you get it wrong, everybody loses trust. A lot of people have been talking about sending people to where they come from. No, 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 no. That is not how it works. That's why I was talking about theory and practicals. For example, Lagos State, for example, if I'm from the Lagos Island, it is not right to send me as a community police officer to work in Lagos Island, but you can send me to Lagos mainland. I can still use my knowledge of Lagos State. Maybe I've gone to primary or secondary school on the island, on the mainland, even though I was born and bred in the island. But if you send officers right into their community, exactly where they came from, that is where the influence starts. Because the chief of the town, the criminal could be his brother, and they could call and say, sit down, our son. We know you're a police officer, but you shouldn't be able to bring up this evidence against your own brethren. The chief may call you, the title man may call you, so it is wrong. Don't send them to their immediate community.
That be for community police, that might be for policing, but I suppose you could apply the same principle to everything and just say yes, then no one should ever work where they come from. But let's go back to the phones now. We have a Chima calling from Port Harcourt, and we'll return to that issue later. Chima, hello.
I can hear you.
Yes, Chima, you're on. Go ahead. Your name is on screen. Your call has been passed through. Go right ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Fred.
Good evening.
Yeah, please, my contribution, my question, I want to ask the DIG, sir. Listen,
yes.
Well, many of us have a problem with the police. Listen, 2016, at Abuja, there's a job at Nasarawa State. At Nasarawa State, Awe police station. Somebody sold the job to me, which they give to him. Listening. I went to Awe during the time of Google herdsmen and everything. That's what is impossible to go. But I went there. I risked there to go there to do the job. When I got this job, I went to Nasarawa State Police Command. The CP still okay the job as you guys do it. I also confirmed for TIG their job in Zone 4. You also they say I should go and do the job. I finished this job, and I'm telling you, and hand over to them. I have all the documents for this. Everybody signed. Up till now, it's getting to 1 year now. But when I get to police for payment, they say I should go to debt management office. That's who to pay me. I'm telling you, I use all what I have, and I got money from bank or this. It's getting to a year plus now. But the police said there is no way for me to get that money. Now, I'm sorry for it. I always come to Abuja, and I'm from Port Harcourt to Abuja, and I will spend more than 4 days, 5 days in the hotel. No answer to give for this. So I'm asking the DIG, is it true that if you do work to police, the police will not pay you? You go to debt management office at the Ministry of Finance to go and collect their money or this. Many people have been paying the
all right.
people money.
Okay, Chiba.
I would have not seen. So I am asking this DIG, can you help me, sir, to tell me? This is my first time to see you, sir. I this opportunity, I have to talk to you, sir. Sir, am I not supposed to pay this one, sir?
All right, thank you very much, Chima. Although that is not what we're looking at tonight, we'll just allow the DIG to tell you what you can do to solve this problem quickly.
Thank you. Chima, it's unfortunate that has happened. What I would like you to do, I don't know whether you had a contract paper, but what has happened is a transaction that may have not been captured by the appropriation. But whatever it is, if you have really executed and you were hired to do so and you've not been paid, can you come up to the force headquarters so that we can see your papers and address that squarely?
All right. Okay. So back to our issue, which has to do with the National Security Summit. We must raise this issue, DIG.
Yes.
And that's to do with intelligence gathering. Yes. And said that it's key to whatever you have to do. How can we reach intelligence gathering today among not just the police, but the security agencies?
Yes, thank you so much. Intelligence gathering is key to success in combating crime. It is that intelligence that had come earlier on as information that is being converted into intelligence. And when you have that and you are able to share it among the need to know and the relevant agencies, then you get it right. Because of the setup of the environment and activities that sometimes become very difficult for you to penetrate into a place to be able to get information that you can convert into intelligence. But nevertheless, like I said, most of this information about the whereabouts of criminals, about the hiding place of those who perpetrate crime in a state, in a community, it is better received from members of the public. But we always ask members of the public that you do not give information to whoever you just see on the street in uniform, but you try as much as possible to give it to those on the need to know. You know your commissioner, you know your DPOs, and some other officers. And this information are analyzed and they become intelligence. We have them, we've been sharing them. The security agencies, including the military, in the recent time have been able to do excellently well. But like I told you, some of the incidences that happen, particularly the cattle rustling, the menace of herdsmen and farmers, they do happen in remote areas and they happen at the twinkle of an eye. And sometimes you can't keep track of them. And it is the same community that live in that area that should be able to inform any of the security agencies what has happened and the description of the people and the route and the location and the direction that they've moved. And therefore, when you talk about intelligence, there isn't any situation where somebody would just be for intelligence and that's all. Yes, we have organizations and departments and agencies whose responsibility it is to gather intelligence. But like I told you, the saying of the fact that everybody, the security is everybody's business, it means that this information that must come from those who are committing crime must come from the community. And if you avail of that opportunity and that information, there are a lot of things that will happen and crime to some extent will be curtailed.
All right, we'll take a short break here. When we return, there'll be more on ensuring national security, and then we'll look at the other angle of it, the new dimensions to what we've been seeing, cattle rustling, farmers' herders' clashes, and the role, the responsibility of the citizen. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajugbe movement to police and security agent them.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Now back to the issues at stake. So much was said at the Security Summit, and part of what it was expected to address was the frequent clashes between herders and farmers, the question of cattle rustling, building up confidence in the police force. And in fact, the big question was, do we even have the personnel to adequately police this country? Now, this argument has gone on for so long. Some people believe that we are under-policed. I've heard people say we're over-policed. And some have even said, well, the problem is with the distribution. What is the status?
Cyril, it's quite true that we can never have enough, but the United Nations ratio, we haven't gotten there. But with the one we have, we can do something. But we still need quite a number to be able to fill the gap. And that's why we're talking about community policing, involving members of the public actively. You know, there has been no situation as this, and no moment in the police as what is happening now. We have a platform where people can send in their complaints and get an instant result and action and do a follow-up. We are more open to members of the public for them to be able to know that we want to take them along. And so when we talk about these issues of what you're saying now, it means that the people must have confidence in the police and must have trust. But, you know, people want what we call jungle justice. There are a lot of situations where a police officer is preventing a crime and somebody has committed a crime and people are very, very eager to lynch him. When in the process of trying to save him, we have seen situations where that officer is killed and maimed.
Well, Prof, you did, I think it was you who said something about, yes, something akin to the militarization of society as a result of military rule. Do you think we still suffer that because of the way we respond to issues like this?
Absolutely so. I mean, what the military came and did was to command, give orders. Now, even civilian governors give orders like military. And human beings who know that they are free resent that, treat us with respect. Now, and this is why for me, Vincent was saying he served in a police service, not a police force, right? That distinction is very important because its impact on the psyche is very important.
Well, we've heard that it's, the concept has changed, but the name hasn't. You think that the kind of police that the colonialists bequeathed to Nigeria is part of the problem too?
No. They had, at least people will tell you that up till 1966, when the military coup took place, up to the time the police itself became federal, was a national police force, as opposed to areas where you had what some people are calling for as community police today. You saw that security was perhaps better handled, let's put it that way. And all the things we were talking about, the role of traditional rulers, the role of community leaders, even giving information to the police, that seemed to be better at that time. But we have reached a stage where we came to the point where perhaps people were just complying for fear of their skins being hurt, rather than doing it as a duty, because everybody has to benefit. So the police has to walk away from that image and be a service to the people. And that takes us back to even the issue that we were talking about, intelligence earlier. The police as an organization is present all over the country, perhaps more spread than other security agencies.
Yes.
Now, my sense is that the Nigerian police is not training as it should do, both in terms of those involved in intelligence, and so they need to train more. And I know we'll go back to the issue of funding to enable them to do that. But there are also other security agencies. You now have civil defense, for instance, because if you must manage what you have to take care of this perennial problem that I hear of, are not meeting the United Nations formula, you have other agencies that could do some things. And this is where the word synergy was used by my colleague earlier on. Among the security agencies, we must find a way of collaborating to cover the gaps until whichever agency is supposed to be lead agency in that area is sufficiently equipped in terms of the personnel and the equipment to do so. But DIG also knows that we have technology now you can leverage on.
Okay.
So that also takes care of the shortage of numbers, so that we don't bemoan the lack of numbers. And then, whereas there are some other possible ways we can get around the problem.
Well, back to the phones now. We have Nasiru calling in from Port Harcourt. Nasiru from Port Harcourt, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, my brother.
Yes, good evening, Nasiru. Go ahead.
I am very, very happy seeing the DIG on the screen tonight. And the God, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the DIG I'm seeing on this screen right now knows the problem. He knows the answer of this program.
So that's all you want to say, that the DIG knows the answers?
The DIG I'm seeing now,
yeah,
that Joshak Abila.
Yes.
He knows, I'm telling you, this is somebody who has been watching, he has been a very active mobile policeman, one of the best squadron leader in Mopo 19 Nigerian police has ever produced.
Okay. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, yeah.
Yes. It has been a very active policeman, a born natural solution policeman. Yes. And what I want to tell the whole nation, everybody that is watching this screen now, community policing cannot solve this problem.
Okay. So what can solve the problem?
The problem would need an in-house training. The issue of UN will be put aside. We need an in-house training of our present police we have in this country. Yes. Adding more is not a solution. Reducing is not a solution. Why I said in-house training, the same DIC there has trained a lot of persons in Port Harcourt, in Azumini, in Abia State, in Diroko border. I'm not a policeman, but I've been following him. He has been very active. He knows what to do.
Okay.
If I say this is what you do, the program will stop.
All right. Thank you very much, Nasiru. So let's take it from the key thing you mentioned, training. All right? And so you say community policing don't do the trick, just training. We need to train. And of course, just before we took that phone call, Prof had talked about the issue of training as well. And yes, General.
I only had that. Actually, I think it's failure from all of us, because what we used to have in terms of the population of both the members of the armed forces and the paramilitary vis-a-vis the population, I think we should be able to know what we need to man the population. But if we cannot do that, there will be that gap. And unfortunately, let me give you an example. When I drive around at times in Abuja, under the bridge at AYA, you will see some paramilitary just sitting there. Give them the benefit of that they may be asked to do some surveillance. But I think if we can bring ourselves together under one umbrella of training, planning, that they can kind of leverage on each other's skills. At least some of this gap can be filled.
All right.
So I feel that we should be able to synergize with all the services, because I remember one time in 2012, I needed some troops in Baga, and I was given custom and immigration. Yes, they should be able to do some kind of garrison duties, but unfortunately, they were not that trained to meet what we would have naturally. So if there's a good training package that everybody will know the primary role in terms of like having a military training, everybody, before you are now asked, go to fire brigade, go to, you will know that at least if there is need for us to defend,
basics, right?
The basic military training, you have it, and we can leave the real soldiers to do their work.
All right. Back to Lagos, but this time the phones. We have Ben calling in from Lagos. Ben, hello. Hello, Ben.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good evening.
Yes. Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good evening, Ben. I can hear your TV. Turn it down and then speak to us.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Afternoon. Hello. Hello, hello.
Ben, if you're calling from Lagos, it is evening. We have just one time zone in Nigeria. All right. Well, you probably have to call back later on. And yes, let's stay in Lagos and with Vince once again. One of the recommendations has to do with a technologically driven police force, taking advantage of technology that is available now to fill certain gaps. And it will take us back to the issue of training.
I think when it comes to the issue of technology, obviously the Nigerian police force has picked up a bit in the past 2-3 years when it comes to the usage of technology. Obviously, being somebody who is highly trained in technology, I was trained in South Africa, played a very important role towards the South African 2010 World Cup, using technology to combat crime in South Africa. Normally, technology in intelligence, what it does for you, does 3 things for you. It helps you to acquire information, that's number 1. It helps you to process that information, that's number 2. And number 3, it helps you on how the best ways to use that information. Now, technology can do more for you than what manpower cannot do for you. But for you to bring technology, you need to make sure you have the men and the women that can use that technology to work. You need to have the basic things like power for that technology to work for you. Now, we use a lot of facial recognition cameras. We use a lot of surveillance cameras. Because if you look at what was done in Abuja, I don't want to go there because it's very heartbroken about the surveillance cameras that were mounted in Abuja. I don't know who done them, let me not go there. But we look at certain roundabouts in Nigeria that you don't need to put policemen there who are seated down, playing with their mobile phone or chopping granite. Or even at times, army officers seated down on the road corner doing nothing. We can simply mount 1 or 2 or 3 surveillance cameras there, and it will gather information for you. It will send you even a lot. We've got systems in technology that you can say, if you're supposed to be going straight down the road, if somebody turned the other way around, it picks up the alarm because it's set by calibrations. Now, we need to try to bring technology into our policing to help us, even with our border security. There are companies in Nigeria that can do these installations. You don't need to go overseas to get somebody from overseas. We've got companies here in Nigeria. Let's come down to the issue of training. Obviously, as a certified trainer, obviously, the importance of training can never be overemphasized here. Now, most of the time, we have this issue of colonial mentality. We see our law enforcement agencies going to look for Oyibo or foreigners to come to train our police. The man you're bringing, a phonetic-speaking foreigner, cannot even understand proper English. Now you're bringing a foreigner that will speak from his nose or from her nose. Let's learn to use what we have. For example, officer safety training. This is what we do every 6 months, except the IG and the DIG and AIG. Every other police officer in Nigeria should be going for officer safety training at least every 6 months. It gives them information on latest technology, the latest tactics the criminals are using, the latest way to protect yourself if it's a knife attack or a gun attack, every 6 months. So it goes into their system. Handcuffing methods. Why shouldn't handcuff somebody in the front hand? It has to be backstack. We don't handcuff anymore in the front. It's almost a zero, except the person is pregnant or has serious injury. It has to be what? Backstack. Because somebody in the front hand with experience can still disarm you, can still take your keys, can still drive an auto, go far away. We help in training to train them about stop and search. So you don't search it in the wrong way. Training is important, but it has to be done by the expert, not just by anybody at all.
But you raised some very salient issues, even though you said you didn't want to go there, but you did go there in the long run. But let's take this call from Kanu. Ismaila calling from Kanu, and then we'll go to where you didn't want to go to. Hello, Ismaila, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Cyril.
Good evening.
Yes, my question or contribution, let me just say, it goes to the DIG. The professor earlier talked about transparency in the security dealings and things like that. So many times people will be arrested, and we hear people are arrested, but the process of prosecuting them and punishing them is no longer public. We will not hear anything after the arrest and things like that. My contribution here is that if those criminals should be publicly punished and people will see it, and I think it will be a deterrent to other people, and this will take a long time in addressing the issue of crimes in Nigeria. So I want the DIG to respond to this. And so many times, I don't know whether it is also for security reasons. People will be arrested, and you will see when they are putting them in public, you see they cover their eyes and things like that. So I don't know the reason for that. And I want the DIG to respond to that. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Well,
thank you, Cyril. I would like to say that sometimes when people are arrested and paraded, don't forget that anybody that is arrested is innocent of that crime until proved guilty by a court of law. And so in parading people, we must be very careful in labeling them confirmed criminals or drawing a conclusion that such persons have actually committed such an offense. And that's why sometimes we do not want to publicly claim that these people are guilty, because the law has this provision that every person that is accused of an offense has the responsibility of proving at any court of law that he has not committed. And the police have the responsibility to ensure that it's proved beyond doubt that that individual actually committed that offense. That is one. Two, people that are paraded for crime that concern the public, that is also a celebrated one. It's important to let the people know that those who commit such crime don't go away free. But I can assure you that there's a misgiving, there's a misinformation and a formed-up opinion by individuals to say that when people are arrested and paraded, that the police there and then will release them. Don't forget that I won't think of that, but if there's anything like that, then it's a very serious and a dangerous one. But I can assure you that those who are arrested and paraded are processed through our justice system. But don't forget too that we are trying to, the country is trying to address the justice administration to make sure that trials are done very fast. But don't forget that if a judge is trying a case in a court and he gets transferred, don't forget that the next one that is coming to sit on the seat is not going to continue with that trial. Rather, it's going to start from the beginning. And don't also forget that we have arrests. The Nigerian police have arrests of lawyers that have been called to the bar. And we have a big department that we synergize with the Ministry of Justice. And for now, I want you to take interest in following up with this situation of people arrested, paraded, and see to the end of it. And I'm sure you'll be happy with that action.
Okay, still from the phones, we have Festus calling in from Ogun. Hello, Festus.
Hello, Mr. Siri.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening to all the panelists.
Good evening.
Yeah, actually, my contribution is more like I want to take the case of the Boko Haram, for example. When it started small. And where the security apparatus were all aware, the government was aware that there's a group that has the tendency to create problems in future, but they did not nip it at the very right time. And so it grew to become something big. You know, I noticed in Nigeria that there are, here and there you see, you know, groups of people or even individuals that have the tendency to become problematic in future, and nobody does anything about it. I will give you an example. Presently now, we have very young teenagers. Some of them, they are not even finished the secondary school. They are not doing the so-called Yahoo kind of thing, and it's spreading all over the country. Nobody is talking about it. Nobody is doing anything about it. So as you can imagine, a small child that has not even finished secondary school is doing Yahoo, and the next thing, he makes a lot of money, and you can imagine what such a child will become in the society. And they don't even have the interest of going to school again. So what future are we breeding? And we have the police in Nigeria that are seeing all these things. Some of them, they will even catch some of those boys. They say they are Yahoo boys, and the next thing you see the boys out. We need to have a holistic approach to security in this country. And I thank God that the DIG is there. We need more commitment. If we see any little thing that can grow, that has the tendency to grow, we should nip it before it becomes a security issue. You know, that's my contribution.
Well, thank you very much, Festus. Proactive action, that's what he's recommending. But I'd just like to go back briefly to something earlier, which Vince didn't want to touch, but which he touched on. He didn't want to go there, he went there all the same. And that has to do with applying technology in this issue. He talked about surveillance cameras, for instance. Using Abuja as an example. Cameras are in many parts of Abuja, but they are maybe as ornaments to decorate the road, and I don't think those cameras ever worked for up to 1 week, and it's years now. So how do we begin to talk about applying technology when the simple basics like surveillance cameras don't even work? Yes, DIG, what's happening? Are we going to...
You're right, Cyril. Like I told you, we must be very serious in this country. We should, yes, we've tried it in some other states. In Rivers State, we had a robust system that is domiciled in a building, we call it the 17th floor. And together with the MP3, who are also experts in security, and we had it well, very, very well during the militancy and during the communal crisis in Rivers. And we've tested that, and that was a fine one. We had the ability with other security agencies to reduce crime to its barest minimum using those facilities. But I haven't seen them work here, and I don't know if there has been one that have been installed with the purposes of monitoring and capturing people committing offenses. But I learned also that there were some cameras. But I can tell you that I do not think that we have the one that can really serve our purpose here in the FCT.
Right.
Cyril, I think the DIG here can correct me if I'm wrong. Policemen can walk down the street, but they have communication gadgets. And they can simply observe and report. Those who will take action will be there very quickly, rather than putting them, in some corner. They're seated there. If they see, they can't even report, and so the response that we need to see coming quickly is not there. It's not possible to invest in even those, or are they outdated piece of equipment? Because I think they're still being used in other parts of the world. So if you have one policeman in an area and they are walking up and down and they have the capacity to report and for action to be taken immediately, that will be more than 10 policemen who are just sitting around. So when Vince talks about technology, it should also include this type of thing. It doesn't have to be at the high end of it that we cannot afford, but those ones used to be available. and they should at least have them.
Right. Is it that those who install the cameras, was it a deliberate attempt to defraud Nigerians? When you are talking, these things were there to assist the police also in functioning. But I don't think those things worked for up to 6 months or a year. It's unfair. Let's call a spade a spade. Except we realize that this is our country, we have to put in everything, we are just going to be dancing in the wilderness. Some people will have kind of collected money, installed that thing, and nobody is talking about it. And at the end of the day, you will blame the police, you will blame everybody. But I always advise people, just go and watch crime investigation in DSTV and see how this thing works. And you now see what is wrong with us. Some people will say, are we cursed nation? The people who are installing it, they are using it, they are not better than us. They are not better than Nigerians. We have the capability and the capacity to do anything we want to do. If we really know, we put our mind in it to do it for our country. Go around Abuja, drive around. If that thing is domiciled in your headquarters, you cannot even see anything. So why are we deceiving ourselves? We play politics in everything. When you want to play politics or diplomacy, you can use it to other people, not to your own, to the detriment of your own very self. It's rather unfortunate that when you look at these things, you wonder. And at the end of the day, nobody wants himself to be blamed.
Well, I think,
yes.
General, it's very true that you would see signs of some vandalization of such equipment.
Yeah.
It is true that there were times that most of this area were captured on the screen. But over time, you see people vandalizing them. It's the same thing about our power system, that people still climb to cut cables and even destroy these things. So I think our value system, I don't know why equipment that are meant for our safety, for our comfort, a lot of people would want to go destroy them or cut them away. So our value system is also contributable to this system.
Well, Prof, even as we have the question of value systems in mind, one of the real vexed issues in all of this has to do with the herders-farmers clashes. And a number of suggestions have been made. People have said, look, ranches, that's the way out. And that has led to heated debates across the country. Ranches, no ranches, grazing areas, no grazing areas. It's something that you can never get a unanimity of opinions on. What do you think?
Well, I don't think that it will be fair to expect unanimity. That is the stuff of societies that are diverse. This issue of herder-farmer clashes has increased because I suspect the number of herders moving into Nigeria has increased. Now, if you look at, ECOWAS has a policy on transhumance. So, and that tells me that those who are moving, and they're largely from the western flank of Nigeria, that's where ECOWAS is. We are the last country of ECOWAS to the east.
Yes.
Now, it says that when there is movement of cattle and herdsmen, they have a system of reporting, and therefore they are expected in the places they are going. One of the problems we have at the moment is the movement from our eastern flank, Chad, Cameroon, and so on. We do not, ECAS does not have a policy on transhumance. So there is this movement that is not captured, you know. even by the security forces, perhaps well enough as the one from the West. That is compounding the problem. But again, we go back to the issue of the law enforcement agents are spread to those nooks and crannies. Why can't somebody report? And why can't action be taken if that report is given? My sense also is, as the general said, we play politics with security. We have been in a mess, in my view, with this Boko Haram thing because we didn't fight it as a country, united to fight that thing because it is our enemy, common enemy. And so we let people want to take glory for some things, some others want to blame, the things on others.
Or make money.
And then the problem is not solved.
Yes.
So if this is a crime, we must treat it as such and deal with those who are perpetrating it. That is the only way we can curb it. But as it is now, the destruction seems to be one-sided. It's the farmers that are losing, and the herders are going scot-free. That is the problem. And I think that it requires political will for that to be handled. Because I think we can deal with it as a country.
All right. The question of taking the fight or starting off the fight from the individual, the small unit, the family, the schools, imbibing and teaching the right morals about what a good citizen should do, what is a citizen's responsibility to the state, even as you talk about what the state owes you or what the state should provide for you. Vince, this is an important aspect that was looked at, and how to begin to teach the right values, because you might have all the technology in the world, you might have all the highly trained security agencies, you might have them in adequate numbers. In fact, someone has gone further to say you might police every meter of a street, but if the right attitude, the right values are not there, it's a huge failure.
Yes, totally. I totally submit to that level of argument. There's one thing I've always believed about the idea of ethical values, the idea of ethics and values in Nigeria. Sometime last year, I was opportune to know that there's a bill passed in the House of Reps that have gone through the first reading, second reading, and has gone through the public hearing. That's a bill on ethics and values. And that is the bill that's supposed to actually help to bring back that ethical values in Nigerians, right from the children, young age to adults. Because right now, obviously, growing up in a country like England, where you've got loads of ethical values, obviously it's part of me. So I think there's a big gap that we need to go back to the issue of ethics and values. There are does and there are don'ts. There are simple orientation. This is something that we need to look into. Right now, I work with certain NGOs that looks about issue of how to imbibe ethics and values through sports. Even right now, I'm in Lagos. I'm obviously part of a huge basketball program called the Continental Basketball League, that we are trying to imbibe ethical values in Nigerian youth for them to use sports as a way out of poverty, as a way to get admission into foreign universities, to get good education. This is what we are trying to do with sports right now in Lagos State. Now, the issue of ethical values it's lacking. Lots of the youth think about, I want to make it big, I want to make money, but they lack the discipline, the orientation, the self-discipline that makes them to be more refined gentlemen that can add value to the society. It's not all about the big monies, it's about who you are inside you. When you speak, can you argue in the highest level in the country? So I think it's a big gap, but it's down to us to support the idea to the success of that kind of situation, to bring ethics and values right from the primary, secondary school. For example, if you're driving your child to school, you're supposed to be doing 60 and you're doing 100. Because your child has been trained in school about traffic ethics and values, he or she can say, Daddy, you're doing 100, you're supposed to be doing 60. That will make most father or most mother to slow down. So I think we need to go back to the grassroots and look at the ethical and conscious awareness of the society we live in today. We lost that, and I think we should bring it back. It's very hopeful.
General.
You see, I would want to add, because when we were growing, you see, the family has a very important role in any national security or national development. We are parents. I know very well, they will tell you, remember the son of whom you are. All those kind of songs in primary school days, they are geared towards making you a better citizen. But because of bad governance, corruption, every parent now, they are just like living by the Lord's Prayer. I mean, provide our daily bread. So when everybody starts looking for his daily bread, there is less concern about the training of their children. And invariably, these children become the problem of the nation because they lack proper upbringing. If there is no, you cannot, in those days, how can you bring somebody's pencil to your house? Your parents will check when you come back from school. They will check your box, your school bag, and when they see extra pencil, they will ask you. But here in Nigeria today, if they see laptop, nobody cares. And those are the kind of children that when parents can even go and buy WAEC certificate for children. So whatever we are seeing today in Nigeria is a product of faulty upbringing. In any sphere of our national endeavor, anything you are seeing today in this country is a product of faulty upbringing. So if we are able to do proper, our Ministry of Education, in those days we buy this book called Civics, 2 kobo. And they will tell you your responsibility as a good citizen. Those things are no longer there. Teachers are not ready to enforce when teachers will be selling brooms in the classroom, collecting money, all those kind of things. We really need to, and a serious orientation that, look, our country, I think we should declare emergency. We are having problems. Don't let us pretend.
All right. Well, Prof.
Well, I mean, it's true. We have to go back to education. We have to start with the family. The religious of, faith communities have their own roles to play. But look, I think that those who are celebrated are not those who have done honest contribution to society. Those with money get celebrated. Those with money get elected. Those with money get everything. So people do whatever they can do to get money, because that's the only time you get recognition. If you look at all the national honors they're giving and so on, and you check, and majority of them are not, how many teachers have been brought out and honored nationally because these teachers have sacrificed to bring up, good citizens and so on. So we must begin to celebrate and honor those who are doing well, not because they have money, but because they have added value to lives of people who are in turn also serving the country well. If we don't change that, then everybody will go to look for money. Whether in primary school, ask primary school kids what they want to be. You'll be surprised the majority of them will think in terms of making money, maybe as pop stars, maybe as models, and so on. Yes. If you go to university, it's the same thing. They will take teaching only as last resort. But it used to be that the teacher had respect because it was producing the nations. So we have lost it even at the highest level, and we need to get back to that. But we also need to put the right people who can give us the right resource in our education system and so on. This constant tampering with the curriculum. One day you hear history has disappeared, civics is not there, and what has replaced it? You know, it's not enough to take us to where we should be going. In fact, it takes us back. So it's not a complex issue as such, but really its manifestation is at all these levels, from the very high to the very low. So it looks like, as one Nigerian author, Rewa once, a title of his book, "We are all guilty," you know, at these various levels, parents, religious leaders, and so on. And we need to change our attitude.
All right. Well, as we wind down this program, DIG Habila Joshak, we might just ask this question: What's it like? How far would the public confidence in the police these days, and the confidence building, the new force which the current IG Idris says he wants to put on ground, the people-friendly police force, and how far with that?
Well, that is right, but I know that the police, like myself, will not be in good condition or position to score myself. But you would have seen the body language and the handwriting and the pronouncement of the Inspector General of Police to all of us that this change mantra, and he meant it because he lived and practiced that. You would have seen also that there are deliberate attempts to open up the police system to members of the public for criticism and contribution. You would have seen that there are a lot of programs and a lot of products that have been launched. The change mantra, the no corruption, the putting up of other agencies like the X Squad that is out there to arrest police officers who want to extort money, and those of them that block the road in the name of trying to collect revenue on our streets, on our highways, preventing agricultural produce and some other goods from passing. You would have also seen the deliberate attempt also that X Squad is going to go through officers, civilians, and members of the public who are workers. When we have intelligence and information of anything, they will be arrested and they will be processed through the justice system. You've also seen we are collaborating with a lot of international organizations and embassies. On a daily basis, we have them coming around to increase our capacity in training and in modern ways of policing. The CREAT that we've just brought out is trying to police with integrity, trying to also not do away with those things that members of the public have always pointed out that has put us against them. This is what we're doing, and we want to join everyone. That if there's anything that you've observed by a police officer out there, although he lives in the society and wants to behave like one and doing the contrary, bring him up. And we have a well-defined process of, putting him into trial, and the punishment, I'm sure you'll be satisfied. We're doing everything possible to key in this change mantra.
All right. Well, and it is on that note we'll have to thank our guests and say, well, and the usual thing we say, no one program can take care of it all. The issues will continue. Question of national security, our ethics, our values, these will continue as we go on. But back to the present, I'd like to thank all our guests for coming on this program. Let's start off by saying thank you very much to Vince Onyekwelu, who joined us from our Lagos Network Center. Vince, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
For having me. Good night, Nigerians. Love you all.
Thank you, Vincent. And let's say a big thank you to General Muiwa Okunawo, who's been here with us. Thank you so much, General.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Nigerians.
Professor Istifanus Zabadi, we thank you very much for
Thank you. Thank you. It's a privilege.
And DIG Habila Joshak, it's always a pleasure to have you join us on different platforms.
Thank you, Cyril, and thank you, Nigerians. Good night.
Right. And also thank you very much to you for being part of this program too. Next week we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.